Hi folks, I'd like to thank Josephine for the idea for this little session. She was asking me about ways to learn to breathe a little bit more deeply, and so I thought I'd go over a couple of simple exercises that you can do to increase your capacity for breath, so your effective lung capacity, we could say. To start with, as always, reminder to work at your own pace. It does take a long time to get to learn to deepen your breath in a safe way. So remember, your breathing is connected to your nervous system, so it's really important we don't force or stress the breath so that we don't stress the nervous system. And of course, as always, if you have questions, don't be afraid to pop them in the comments. I'd love to hear from you, and I'll get back to you as soon as I possibly can. So that being said, first thing I want to remind you all is that breathing is simply a muscular activity. So breath doesn't get forced into the body in some magical way and make the body expand and contract. The body expands and contracts, and that's what makes the breath move in and out. So it's really important we understand that it is simply a muscular activity that we're working with, but they're deeper, more, we could say, more subtle muscles than the superficial muscles that we're used to working. So it takes a little while sometimes to get a connection to them. And I want you to consider that with that understanding of the breath being simply a muscular action, there can be two limitations to how deep our breath can be. So if we, let's say, just to pick a simple number, let's say that you have a container that's a litre and holds a litre of water, let's say. If you only empty it halfway, you can of course only put half a litre into it each time you fill it. Whereas if you empty it fully, you can add a litre to it each time. On the flip side, if you've got a container that's only half a litre in size, even if you empty it fully, you can only put half a litre of water back into it. And I mention that because effectively those are the two limitations that we have with breathing. Sometimes we can't inhale very well, so we could say the container is relatively small, and sometimes we don't exhale very well. So that means we're not emptying our little container, our little pot of air each time that we breathe out. So it's important that if we want to deepen our breath, we learn to both deepen our in-breath and our out-breath. And there's also, we could split it up a little bit more deeply, but we could say that there's two main areas that we can breathe. So we can breathe diaphragmatically, which is where the belly moves in and out, and we can breathe thoracically, which is where the chest expands outwards and then contracts back inwards. And for some of us, we breathe well diaphragmatically, we don't breathe so well thoracically, or vice versa. And we also might find that we can inhale to the belly, but we can't exhale very well. Or we might find that we can't inhale to the chest, but we can exhale quite well. So it's really four parts of the breath that we're working with here. We're working with abdominal inhalation and exhalation, and thoracic inhalation and exhalation. So those are the four parts of the breath that we're going to be working with. So I'm going to show you first of all what we're working towards, which will be an infill from a full exhalation, an infill to the belly, then up to the chest, and then an exhalation from the chest back down to the belly. And then we're going to do a couple of simple exercises lying down. So ideally what we're working towards is, say, starting with full in-breath, breathing into the belly, into the chest, then out from the chest and out from the belly. So something like this. So that's something along the lines of what we're working towards. So the easiest way to work on that, and of course you can do these exercises as long as you like, as long as you're not stressing your breath, and I would recommend that you try to do them every day, even if it's only for 5 or 10 minutes. A little bit frequently is much better than a lot occasionally. So if we start lying down, and how you put your legs for this doesn't really matter, you just want to be comfortable. And what I'd like you to do is put one hand or both hands on your belly below the navel. Make your body comfortable. And it helps if you close your eyes here, just so you can feel what's happening within the body. And your hand is there as a feedback mechanism, so you can also feel what's happening in the body with the hand. So first of all, if you just relax for a while, you'll find you come to a relatively neutral position. So the breath is moving relatively softly from the neutral position. So if we think of our breath like a wave that rises and falls, like a tide, it's often called tidal breathing. Our neutral position is somewhere in the middle where the breath isn't moving a great deal. So we've got the capacity to both exhale more and inhale more. But if we start from that relatively neutral position, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a little practice of breathing into the belly. So we're going to let the out breath be relatively spontaneous and just focus on the inhalation. So when you're ready at your own pace, just breathing in, trying to keep the chest still, and then just let the breath come back to neutral. And again, inhaling to the belly and exhaling back to neutral. And do that a few more times at your own pace. If you're a little more experienced, I want you to see if you can feel the breath moving into the back and sides of the lower body as well. So breathing three-dimensionally. Once you've got the hang of that, and of course, as I said, you can do this for as long as you'd like, we'll move on to our next little exercise. And you can probably guess, it's an exhalation from the belly. So we're going to let the in-breath be relatively spontaneous and focus primarily on the out-breath by trying to pull the belly down towards the spine and a sense of pulling the sides of the waist inwards as well. So again, from our neutral position, see how much you can breathe out. Try to squeeze all the breath from your lower body. And let the breath return. And then again, exhaling fully. And breath back to neutral. All the way out. And back to neutral. All the way out. And back to neutral. So just do that a few more times at your own pace. Always breathing through the nose, both in and out. Of course, if you start to feel a bit stressed, just come back to relaxed breathing again. Back to that relatively neutral tidal breath. And then we're going to move on to the chest. So move your hand up somewhere onto your chest. So again, you can feel what's happening using your hand for feedback as well as your sense of interoception or what's happening within the body or the space within the body. We're going to do the same process again. So we're going to start by, from the neutral position, focusing on inhaling, not just into the front of the body, but side, ribs and back as well. So come into a neutral breath. And here we're going to try and keep the chest moving, but the belly still. So when you're ready, try to take a deep breath into the chest, belly not moving up. And come back to neutral. And
And deeply inhale to the chest. And back to neutral. And again, inhaling to the chest. Front, back and side ribs. Back to neutral. And just do a few more like that at your own pace. Doesn't matter how deep the breath is at this point. Over time it will get better as you learn to control the muscles of breathing. When you're ready, just come back to resting in neutral breath again. And of course now we're going to move into exhaling from the chest. Now this is probably the most challenging for a lot of people. So just do the best you can and be patient. So coming back into neutral. In a sense of squeezing the rib cage in towards the heart as you breathe out. And then letting the breath return to neutral. And then contract the ribs again. And let the ribs expand back to neutral. And again contracting. And again, just go a few more rounds at your own pace. Squeeze the side ribs in. Try to squeeze the lower front ribs in. And when you're ready, come back to neutral.
Now, that might be enough for you to start with, just working with lying down and trying to isolate those four parts of your breath just to the best of your ability. But from there we're going to start to combine inhalation and exhalation, first from the belly, and then or from and to the belly, and then from and to the chest, and then we're going to link them together. So you can, as I say, treat this as a separate exercise once you get familiar with those inhalations and exhalations in isolation, or you might link them all together if you've got a little bit more time and you'd like to do so. And of course, once you've become familiar with the breaths in isolation, you don't need to perhaps work with that last exercise, but maybe just work with this one we're about to do. So again, easiest to do it lying down, but not essential. You can do it sitting up. But let's just keep it simple for now. So lying down again, I'm going to do this without my hands on the body so you can perhaps see a little more clearly. But of course, when you're practicing it until you're really familiar, use your hands as your feedback mechanism. So what I'm going to do is try and inhale fully to the belly and exhale fully from the belly, and just keep that diaphragmatic breath moving without moving the chest or keeping the chest relatively still. So we're trying to isolate just the lower parts of the lungs. So I'll start with an exhalation. Emptying completely. And with the chest still, breathe in, let the belly puff out. And then squeeze the belly down. And smoothly into the belly. And out from the belly.
fully in, just to the lower lungs, and out from the belly. And take a few more rounds at your own pace. Remember, as you get more familiar with this, you're trying to have more of a sense of the breath moving in the sides and back of the body as well. Trying to increase the depth of both your in and out breath. And then just come back after a few more rounds to relaxed breathing, that neutral breath. And then of course moving, when you're ready, to the chest. So the same thing again, here trying to keep the belly relatively still and both inhaling and exhaling as deeply as you can to the upper parts of the lungs, to the rib cage. So again, starting by emptying the breath completely and belly still, inhaling to the chest. And squeeze all the breath out of the ribs. Inhaling to the chest. And out of the ribs. A few more rounds at your own pace. Maybe just take another couple of rounds and then again come back to relaxed, neutral breath. And once you've got the hang of that, we're going to move on to our next simple exercise, which is learning to isolate abdominal and thoracic breathing, but with alternating breaths. So it's going to be one into the belly, one into the chest, one to the belly, one to the chest, which will take a little while to get the hang of initially. But once you get it, it'll become relatively simple. So we're going to start again from neutral, the body comfortable, breathing out all the way, emptying to begin. And then deeply into the belly. And out from the belly. Into the chest. And out from the chest. And then into the belly. and out from the belly. And into the chest. And out from the chest. And into the belly. And out from the belly. Into the chest. And out from the chest. And take a few more rounds like that at your own pace, never stressing the breath. Doesn't matter if your breath cycle is shorter. Initially, you'll struggle to take long breath cycles with these rhythms. So just do the best you can. If you start to feel stressed or anxious, when you feel like it's becoming a little challenging and uncomfortable, just come back to completely relaxed, neutral breath. And that brings us to our final exercise, which was what I showed you at the very beginning, although I was doing it from seated. Again, you can do it seated or lying down. We're going to try and sequentially breathe into the belly, then into the chest, and then out from the chest and out from the belly. So it's like you're filling up from the bottom of the lungs to the top and emptying from the top down. So, let's give it a go. Make the body comfortable. Again, you can use the hands on the body for feedback until you get comfortable. And starting with a full out breath to prepare. And into the belly. And into the chest. And out from the chest. And out from the belly. Into belly. And into chest. Out from chest. And out from belly. Again, into belly. Into chest. Out from chest. And out from belly. And take a few more rounds at your own pace. Just do the best you can to breathe sequentially, filling bottom of the lungs to the top, emptying top of the lungs to the bottom. It's okay if there's a little crossover initially. You're working over weeks and months to refine your breath control. It's important you don't get frustrated. It's also important that you don't force. I know I keep saying that. Hopefully it gives you some idea that it is important. you feel it's enough, just come back again to relaxed neutral breathing. And it's important that you spend at least a minute or two just resting after you've been taking this practice. Make sure that the nervous system, the body and breath are completely relaxed. And of course, when you're ready, making your way back to a comfortable seat. And it's nice to sit again for 30 seconds to a minute and just let the body get used to being upright. So I hope that helps. Remember that most of us breathe way too frequently but not deeply enough. It's said in many of the old yoga texts that the lifespan of the body is measured not in years but in breaths. So learning to deepen and slow your breath is really one of the best things you can do for the health of the body and the mind and the longevity of the body. So thanks very much for joining me for this practice. As I said, please try and implement it on a regular basis, daily if you can, even if it's only for 5 or 10 minutes. Work patiently, work progressively, and you'll find it will have a profound effect on every aspect of your life. Thank you very much. I'll see you soon.